Hi, hey, come on in. I'm so glad you're here. Class 1 of Orientation to Your Instrument. We're going to cover so many things today, and I hope your mind just goes phew, and it's going to do that a lot. Okay, so before we get started, make sure that you click the link below and you download your worksheets so you can follow along and kind of get to know yourself a little bit better, right? Because this is the owner's manual for the human voice. We're going to definitely learn stuff that we didn't know before. So, first thing I want to do is let's just get started. Take a look at your worksheet and you'll see the diaphragm. How many people know where the diaphragm is? What does the diaphragm do? It's a mystery, right? I have an intake questionnaire for everyone when they come to become one of my clients. And all the time I get the same thing over and over. Hi, Ginger, I'd like to work on breathing. And this girl, she studied classical music. So she's no joke. And she was in a choir. And the first thing she tells me is, I never understood what the teacher meant when she said, sing from the diaphragm. Then she goes on to say, where is it? What does it do? How does it feel? Every intake questionnaire for 30 years, I get those same comments and those same questions. So we really want to find out all that. And you can see clearly on your diagram, that's your diaphragm, okay? Look at that thing. It's like a big dome, right? Some people say it looks like a parachute, whatever. It looks like a dome to me. But really cool is how it's inset inside the rib cage. So you're looking at the rib cage, you're looking at the diaphragm outside of the rib cage, you're looking at the diaphragm inside of the rib cage. So I want you to really find out and feel where that is on your own body. So you're going to take this journey with me because, as I said in our intro, we are going to be exploring our own instrument. You're going to touch it, you're going to feel it, you're going to observe how it works. I really want you to do it all and have that experience, okay? So the first thing I'm going to have you do is, with your hands, I want you to walk down your sternum. What's the sternum, right? It's the thing in the middle of the ribs, okay? So we're going to touch the top of that sternum right here, all right? You doing it? You got to do it. Then we're going to walk down, right here. This is where the diaphragm starts to attach to the rib cage. So if you pretend that your fingers, sorry, I was out of screen for a second. If you pretend that your fingers are underneath your rib cage, yeah, your ribs are here, and you walk along your rib cage, and you keep going and keep going and keep going to the back. That's your diaphragm. All of it. Bring your hands all the way back around and up. That's your diaphragm. It's attached to the inside of the rib cage in a 360-degree fashion at the very bottom of each rib. Now, what I want you to do is put your hands on your side, right here, yeah? And I just want you to take a deep breath in. That was your diaphragm expanding. Now exhale. That's your diaphragm contracting, okay? You can feel it here in the front. You can feel it on the sides. You can feel it in the back. But get to know that. That is where your diaphragm is. Okay.
Let's relax for a second.
So check it out. Let's do this. You see the diaphragm coming down like that? You see the diaphragm going up. You see the diaphragm coming down. You see the diaphragm going up. You see the rib cage going out and up. And then you see the rib cage coming in and down. That's exactly what we just did on our bodies, okay? So the diaphragm being connected to the ribs, clearly you can see that the ribs are pulling and stretching the diaphragm and then allowing the diaphragm to relax. So it's not the diaphragm doing the work. It's the ribs doing the work. Does that make sense? Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to put your hands back on that rib cage. And I want you to take another breath in. These are called observation breaths. Open your mouth, expand your ribs. That's right, I didn't say breathe in, I said expand your ribs. So your ribs are opening. So now let's exhale. Your ribs are closing. A miracle, right? Breathe in. Your ribs are opening. Exhale. your ribs are closing. So now you get two things happening. You get your diaphragm expanding, right? Then contracting. Ribs going out and up and in and down. So what actually moves the rib cage as it's going out and up when you take a breath in? What moves the rib cage as it's going in and down when you exhale? What moves any bone in the body? It's muscle, the intercostal muscles. Look at your second diagram. You see in between each set of ribs that you have a muscle, a group of muscles. These are called the intercostal muscles. There's 3 sets. We're not going to go into all of it, but there's the outer, the inner, and the most inner of them. And they are responsible for opening the rib cage and lowering the rib cage. So hands back on the side, get to know this position. This is our rock and roll ribs area. I do this because I love rock and roll. Anyway, going down the sides of the ribs, right here. But you're going to feel most expansion in the bottom, right? Okay, so here we go. Let's follow along with the breathing. Go. Those are the rib cage muscles, the intercostal muscles. Hold it. Hold them open. Now you're becoming at cause over a muscle that you didn't even know existed before. Exhale. You feel all that expansion? I really want you to get a good idea of what's going on in there, okay? I'm the diaphragm right here. I'm connected to the ribs. I'm coming down. Now, when the diaphragm is in this position, it's in an active state. And that is the state at which the diaphragm can regulate the airstream to the vocal folds. How does it do that? By acting on the lungs. Go down to your third diagram, down to the third one, and take a good look. You can see a cross section of the rib cage around the lung and then the lung without the rib cage around it. And you can see underneath the diaphragm connected. Note it goes down on the back, right? Yeah, this is all working together. This is your instrument, okay? And we haven't even got up here yet. So let's get to know it. Now, when the diaphragm is pulled apart by the rib cage and it lowers, the lung is sitting on top of it, right? So the lung is going to go with it. Yes, that's all of the air coming in, okay? The lung doesn't breathe in. The ribs open. The lung is attached. You can see that on your diagram. See where it says a pleural space on the diagram? Pleural space is the sticky stuff that sticks the lung. It's the pleural wall that sticks the lung to the ribs. Okay, do you get that? So I'm stuck. I'm a rib and I'm in a lung and I'm stuck together. So as the ribs open, it pulls the lungs and in comes the air. It's pretty cool. All right, Gucci. Now, I'm the diaphragm, I'm active, and I'm a lung, and I'm stuck on top of that too. So as the diaphragm moves like this to have this conversation I'm having with you right now, because my rib cage is open, I always have a supported diaphragm. And just the right amount of air gets to the vocal folds. See the top of the lung there? Well, on your diagram, this diagram, see the top of the lung? So right there is the windpipe, and you see that as well. And you also notice that the top rib is right there, okay? Right there. That top rib, stick your fingers right here, right under your collarbone. I want you to take a breath in. There's movement. Yeah. And there's lung here. And so there's lung here. So we know the diaphragm is right at the solar plexus, right? Keep your hands here. Follow along. We're going to exhale, and we're going to move our diaphragm up like this. Ta-da! Yay! That's where the diaphragm is right now. Let's take a deep breath. Back down to the solar plexus. Ta-da! Don't let your ribs fall. Right now, you have an active diaphragm. So if you want to do this with me, just go, ha, ha, ha. Go ahead. Ha, ha, ha. Did you feel your belly bounce? Yeah, that's your diaphragm. But if you move your hands to the side and you do it again, ha, ha, ha. You can still feel your diaphragm. And actually, when you laugh, you can feel that too. And then you move your hands to the back and you go, ha, ha, ha. You can still feel it. It's not as intense, but you can still feel it, okay? Diaphragm's doing its thing. But when the ribs come down, diaphragm ain't doing nothing, okay? Remember that. because the diaphragm does not sing. The diaphragm breathes. The diaphragm regulates the airstream, or the diaphragm forces the air out, depending on the state that the diaphragm is in. All right? So if somebody says, sing from your diaphragm, okay, that is not a thing, okay? You can breathe with your diaphragm, yes. You can create sound because the diaphragm is lifting on the lung. Ha, ha, ha. Hi, I'm talking. Ta-da! You getting all this? You following me? Okay, so let's do a quick recap. We have a diaphragm, we know where it is. We have a rib cage, we know where it is. We have muscles in the ribs. We know move the rib cage, the intercostals. We have a diaphragm that's stuck to that rib cage that is moved by the intercostals. We have lungs that are stuck to that rib cage that is moved by the intercostal muscles. So it's all coming down to what? It's coming down to the ribs are in charge of everything. The ribs are in charge of breathing. The ribs are in charge of the diaphragm. The ribs are in charge of the lungs. And what's in charge of the ribs? The intercostal muscles. So what's the most important set of muscles that we need to work out to gain complete control over the airstream and to be an amazing vocalist? Yeah, exactly. The intercostals. Another thing I want to cover is, yeah, the air is going into the lungs. It's never going into your belly. So when someone says breathe into your stomach, no, air does not go into the stomach for any reason except if you're drinking a carbonated beverage or in between gulps of food if you're eating really fast and then you belch. Yay. Get it? So the only reason that people say breathe into your belly is because the abdomen, those upper muscles right here, right, aiming for this, right here, those two, there's an opposing muscle group, okay? So every muscle has an opposing muscle, bicep, tricep. Bicep raises the arm, tricep lowers the arm. So I want you to get the idea that when you breathe in, your belly is expanding, but it's not air, okay? Let's take a look at your diaphragm again, okay? You'll notice that it's curved, right? Underneath that are all the organs, okay? There's not a lot of room in there for things to move around. So I'm going to be the diaphragm with my hand, and this is going to be the abdominal wall, okay? Right where this pendant is, here, that set of muscles. As the diaphragm comes down, it's coming down like this. And moving the organs, and the abdomen is relaxing, allowing for that expansion. And then when you exhale, it pushes the organs back up. So you inhale, and it moves. It's not air going into the belly. It's just expanding for the organs, okay? So I just really want to be clear on that. We do not breathe into our abdomen. Now, I'm the diaphragm and I'm in an active position, and this is in a relaxed state. So when we're breathing in, the abdomen relaxes. When we blow out, the abdomen comes in. Just remember that. When the diaphragm is in this position, this can't be happening because then you'll sound like this. And then you sound like you're singing from the throat, which you're always singing from the throat. But that squeezes, okay, because it's pushing the organs back up underneath the diaphragm, and the diaphragm is no longer able to regulate the airstream, so the throat muscles clamp down, and a huge disaster occurs. So no pushing from your stomach, okay? Your abdomen is either the diaphragm's best friend or the diaphragm's worst enemy. So we're going to correct all of that with our breathing exercises. Anywho, okay, so we figured all that out, right? Now we're going to talk about the larynx, your voice box, okay? So your last diagram that you have is this guy right here. And then you have a cross-section of the actual vocal cords, okay? That's like if you popped your head off and you were looking down your throat. That's what you see, okay? Not to be weird or anything, but so let's touch. We're going to get to know, all right? So this is our throat, right? We're touching, like looking at that diagram. Your tongue's here, and then you're coming down. You got your windpipe, right? This is your voice, your larynx, your voice box. The laryngeus, shifakwi. Okay, hold on. Okay, so let's touch. Touch your throat. So for guys, it's like Adam's apple area. Ladies, I know we don't have an Adam's apple, but touch your throat. Okay, so this is your larynx, and it actually moves. I'm going to gently move it. Don't gross out. That's my voice box, okay? And in there, as you're touching, I want you to say A, B, C, D. Just go for it, please. Yes, you feel your voice vibrating, okay? So I have news for you. That is where you sing from. It is not the diaphragm. That is the truth, okay? We sing. This is where the sound is made. Diaphragm regulates the airstream to the vocal folds. Say A, B, C, D again. Yes, that's right. It's all happening right there. So you see this right here, both sides of the vocal fold. Now imagine that that's you sitting down on the couch and that is your windpipe and you're just breathing naturally. That is the position that your vocal folds are in. They're separated, right? Okay. These are going to be your vocal folds today. Check this out. And my trusty hair elastics. Woo-hoo. Okay, so when you're making sound, they're in this position, closed, just like that. Of course, they lie straight back. You know, you're going to turn it straight back. They're not up like that. It is the diagram. So they're open, they're closed. So this is breathing, this is phonating, okay? This could be running. They might open all the way out, okay? Like you see where they are, they're gonna open all the way to the edge of the windpipe there. This is singing. How much air do you think is gonna go through the vocal folds if they're in this position as opposed to this position? Right. Not a lot, okay? Marathon running, singing. So why do we need to have a huge amount of air when we sing? We don't. We don't need a lot of air at all. We need a regulated airstream. So remember when we were breathing in? Okay, breathe in. Diaphragm's working, lungs on top. It's regulating the airstream. That's going from here, where the lungs are, right here, up the windpipe to the vocal folds, okay? But if I exhale, that's a lot of air. That's not a regulated airstream. So the diaphragm regulates that airstream to these very gentle vocal folds, okay? The folds come together. They just need to be tapped on the bottom. So, ha, 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 ha. That's it. Try that. On any note you want, just do it. Ready? 2, 3. Ha, 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 ha. If you're a guy, you're probably down here. Ha, ha, ha. That's too low for me. Never mind. Okay, so we got this idea of what is going on here. When the airstream hits the vocal folds, okay, it taps on them and a sound wave is created, okay? That sound wave is created and it goes out in a 360-degree fashion as well. But on our bodies, we have resonators, okay? And I want to talk about that too for a second. When you hit a note, whether if it's a high note, it's going to be, the vocal folds are going to come really tight together. If it's a low note, they're going to be a lot looser. Same thing on, like on a guitar, okay? So the tighter the string is, the higher the pitch. The tighter the vocal folds, the higher the pitch. The looser the vocal folds, the lower the pitch. So you get the gist of all of that, right? It's all in one place. These don't crawl up to your head or down to your chest to make noise. A sound wave will seek its own cavity based on the speed of the sound wave. So I'm going to bring out my trusty piano and kind of demonstrate this. Okay, ladies, choose a low note. I'm going to choose A for you. Gentlemen, sing anything you want, okay? We're going to sing a low note. Sing the lowest note you want to, okay? Put your hand on your chest and go, oh, that was a low one. Yeah, that was really good. That's my man voice. Okay. So girls, you can hit this. You can still feel that in your chest. Okay. So your hand is here. Now I want you to move the note an octave up. You didn't feel your chest. You know why? Because sound doesn't resonate in your chest at that speed. Nope. One of those mind-blown moments, right? But it just doesn't, okay? It's the same theory as a speaker. A speaker has a woofer for the low notes and a tweeter for the high notes. The woofer is bigger, like this is bigger, and the tweeter is tinier, but they're balanced to each other, okay? So the laws of physics apply here to sound acoustics. This is 440 cycles per second. This is 220. different speed, different placement. Then there's in the middle. That middle voice that we all talk about. That's in Module 2. We'll cover that. Today, we're just getting familiar with the instrument. So meet your woofer, meet your tweeter, and meet your crossover. That's the way it happens. So I hope that we've come to an understanding of what's going on with all of the different parts of the anatomy. You now know that your instrument starts from the bottom rib all the way up to here, right? No, wait, it's all the way up to here because this is the tweeter. We got everything in the upper torso except for our arms at play. When we are a singer, we have that as our instrument. So that is the owner's manual to the human voice. And that, if you have any questions, you can pose them in the forum and I'll answer all of your questions, okay? So keep this for life and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for joining.